in typical fashion, 5 seconds before I join the rest of the world for our morning safari, he goes to sleep. Welcome to Djuma, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful morning here in South Africa. My name is Mark. Brian is with me this morning. And, of course, Tara is back in final control. I'm glad you could join us this morning, and we're sitting with a leopard, as you can see, and he has come down out of his tree. He had a kill here for the last couple of days, and I felt it important to come and to start here this morning because we've been following this drama as it unfolded when we first found him, and we've seen how sometimes a kill can last only a day or so, but I think to see it over a period of days is important too, because the larger the animal, obviously, the longer it takes to eat it. There is some of the impala left in the tree. I'm not going to show it to you right now. We can't actually, because the trunk of the marula is in the way. We've come around the side of the tree because it's our best view. A lot of the twigs that you're seeing, a lot of this brown dead stuff at the base of this marula tree is a plant from South America called blackjack. It is a little bit of a scourge. It is an aggressive invading alien species. And since he's mostly, and the hyena have mostly been trampling it over here, this is our best view. And unfortunately he's just turned over, but he is a bit restless. He's probably quite full, so he's probably not very comfortable. And so he's hopefully going to turn around and lie the other way or get up or something. But we're going to sit here for a little bit and observe him, and then continue on our drive and maybe come back intermittently throughout our drive. It's overcast. There's a little bit of light in the east where the cloud thins out, but there's quite a heavy bank coming up from the south, and it's going to keep things pretty grey for the first part of the morning. There's still a beautiful morning chorus of birds. There was a fish eagle calling earlier. We can hear the red-billed buffalo weavers now, mostly chittering in the distance. Tweeting. They're all tweeting #SafariLive. Barely a breath of wind, which means that the temperatures are very mild, varying slightly from the lower lying areas in the riverbeds and drainage lines to the top of the hills. We're sort of halfway to the top of a ridge. First person to send in a question this morning, or question that has come in all the way from Arizona. Good morning to Deborah in Arizona, wanting to know if lion, hyena, leopard, any of the large predators, he's watching something, it could be the wildebeest, wanting to know if they suffer from bloat like domestic dogs do, because she believes it can be quite fatal. I've only known bloat in cattle, to be honest. Bloat in as far as I'm aware, and now I might be wrong, and I need to learn as much as anybody, but from what I understand, when cattle eat too much of a very, very lush green grass that ferments too quickly and it causes too much gas, and it can, well, bloat, can be relieved in rather a harsh manner out in the field, much the same way as a tracheotomy. Yeah, one of those things to open a trachea. Tracheotomy, that thing. Can't get my mouth around it. But I've never known of bloating carnivores. Now I'm open to information on that, and I often do get feedback from viewers when they ask me questions that I don't know, and I often get information back. I have to thank you very much for that, especially Sharon up in Austria, who's constantly providing me with wonderful tidbits of information. Stuff that I probably ordinarily wouldn't come across on my own, but because it comes up in conversation with all of you around the world, it's a great learning experience for me to be out here, to be showing you our African wildlife and telling you as much as I can about it, and in the same process learning so much more. Julie and Susie both sending in tweets of bloating horses and bloating goats. Once again, both herbivores. I've heard of it in horses too, from my horse friends. And I'm wondering if it's the same cause, just eating too much of a good thing. And the digestive tract getting blocked and gases building up and escaping into the peritoneal cavity, I guess. I guess, but I might be wrong. Something to look at. I guess we could take a vote if we should sit here for a little while longer, or if we should go for a drive, because I think he's going to be sleeping a little bit. And since there's no sunshine coming, we can do a loop and see what else we can see. I'm keen to find flowers. And I think by today already, after 2 days almost, I think that there might be something to see. Certainly these monkey pods that are around us at the moment, their flowers have perked up. Everything's looking a little bit brighter. It was starting to look very drab and dry, and conditions were getting quite dusty. So it's wonderful to have these damn conditions again, and perhaps the chances of the last of the flowering plants before the dry season. There's supposed to be some things, especially a flower called the Chrysandra. You can see the whole plant. There it is, a little worry bush. too much blackjack around the front of him. But also, we can't sit here too long because we are blocking his... Yeah, like he cares.
His view of his eyelids.
Yeah. I can smell him. It's almost like a wet dog smell. What are we blocking? I was saying that we were kind of blocking his view, but there's also, right next to me is a flat zebra wood that he can't see anything anyway. So, but and then he flopped his head down, and well, he doesn't want to see anything anyway. But I think what we're going to do is we'll come back. Let's go and have a look, see what these wildebeest are up to. Catch up on the size of the youngsters, because we actually witnessed and filmed, we had live the birth of wildebeest back in November, and two of these two youngsters might very well be two from then. So we'll leave him be, sleeping away, sleeping off an entire impala. All that is left, I don't think I'll show you, it's a bit gruesome, and I know some people don't like it, so this maybe later if we need to, but all there really is skin and the leg bones. Zebra wood. Called a zebra wood, by the way, because it has beautiful different colored wood. The outer wood is yellow, very, very pale, and the heart wood is very, very dark. It's almost a dark purple. It's so cool. It's almost black, but it's so dark. And in places, it is pretty black. It's a very rough nest, but that's quite typical of eagles' nests. Aries. I'm an Aries, but it's a different type of an Aries. Aries plural. Iris. E-Y-R-I-E-S. Iris. Aries. Eagle's nests. And the Wahlbergs that was living here, they're very pale Wahlbergs. And I have to be honest, all the summer that we were here, I didn't see it with a mate, as far as I remember. We always saw it on its own, and for a long time, when I first got here, I thought maybe because the mate was on the nest, but they do tend to nest very early in the season. They come back from further north in Africa, and they tend to nest fairly early, shortly after they get back, in about September. They're one of the first migrants to come back, along with the yellow-billed kites, the mulgus. Watching me do this. That's the top of the head. That was on a separate spine. The tree that it was on, funny enough, is a zebra wood. I'm talking about zebra wood. Zebra woods are very spiny. Spines, by the way, are modified branches as opposed to thorns, which are modified leaves. This is so fresh, it's soft and moist, and it's not moist because of the humidity, it's moist because that snake did this during the night. And unfortunately, this part of the head has torn off. This is the top scales on top of the head, and I could probably go through my book and find out what snake it is. And I'm guessing it could even be a brown house snake. There's the bottom jaw. And it's beautiful because that's also going to show me the configuration of the scales. And I could also count the scales in cross-section across the body diagonally. If you count the row of scales from, there's the bottom scale that comes over the back in a diagonal pattern. The whole skin from the tip of the head to the tip of the tail. Whoops. It's light, it's feathery. It's a very smooth scaled snake. This is why I'm thinking it could be something like a brown house snake. it's not one of the tree snakes. It's a little bit too fat. The tree snakes, like the vine snake and the worm slung, are much thinner. The other little toy I wanted to show you, I call them toys because they're my toys. Nature's wonderful little tidbits. It tells us about all sorts of things that we might not see, but telltale signs that they were here. This is a very particular type of praying mantis egg case. It's like a little air bubble. It's hard to explain it to you, but the line that we see at the top, that's the exit holes, and deep inside this little air bubble are all the little egg chambers, maybe only about a dozen or 2 dozen egg chambers, encased in this little air bubble of, instead of foam, some of the bigger mantis egg cases are just foam around the egg chambers, but this is like a little air bubble with the same substance that dries, and that of course keeps them nicely insulated against things on the outside, protects them from predation. Don't stop now. Let me move back just an inch. One of our viewers asked me to find the green woodupoo or the red-billed woodupoo. They now known as the green woodupoo. And they're going to fly in a flock. With that lovely cackling sound. Oh, they're going far too far away. That cackling sound, they do a dance with their tails. We'll just have to try and find another group of them, I hope. Any animals or birds that use the snake skin? And if so, how? I'm trying to think. This Tammy was asking us. Thanks, Tammy. Just trying to think what birds might use it. Birds used it, they would use it for nesting, if they did. I'm trying to think of birds that might, Tammy. What was that? Something big. It was probably that zebra rolling. I think so. I've known some of the large snakeskin that's left on the tree. I've known spiders to use sack spiders, bark spiders, no, not bark spiders, crab spiders. I've known some spiders to live in a larger snakeskin when it forms like a little, they can wrap it and form it into a little nest. I wouldn't be surprised. I found when I got home, there's another one. When I got home, this time on leave, when I was on leave now, just a couple of weeks ago, I had snakeskin on the floor of my kitchen and snakeskin on the top of the cabinet in the kitchen. Now, I don't think it was a snake that left it there. I think it was the squirrels that were stealing snakeskin, because I've got snakeskin all over my house. And there was a big mamba skin that I found many years ago. In fact, this one might end up there. When I was here, I found a mamba skin that was over 8 feet long. Excuse me a moment, I just have to talk on the radio. Mark, you go ahead. Okay, it's closer to the Buya side of Uriskaya. If you head up the road that from the dam towards Uriskaya, Not the one at Ingerskaya. Or otherwise, if you go up from Ingerskaya, just follow the fence line towards Weers. But you'll probably find the movers tracks coming in from that road that goes between Yuriskaya and Uyetela. Very, very close to that road that runs between the two, but also almost right on the fence line. At Impala Plains. I want to have a look. There's a lovely vista of the Drakensberg Mountains looking out to the west. A little bit of dark cloud to the southwest that's moving more. And there's a little bit of a bank coming in from the south too. But we might still be able to see the mountains. After the rain that settles the dust, we should get lovely views out to the mountains. Of anything else. Anyways, the squirrel must have stolen some of my snakeskin and used it for nesting material. So I guess that we could say maybe squirrels use it for nesting. Snake. Sorry, yeah, you see, it's just lovely things to just get distracted with on a day like today. Also looks like a pretty fresh snakeskin. Again, this time in a buffalo thorn. Also, head to tail, probably very fresh. Just missed the reptile, perhaps, sadly. Marula is probably the only nut that we have that is not only palatable, but it's, or rather not only edible, it's just highly palatable. It's such a delicious nut. This is a Marula nut that I'm imagining grew into a tree rather than, or it germinated rather than was eaten into, because these must find you now another Marula nut, if the squirrels have left me any. But these little eyes that you can see have a cap in them. It's almost like cork. Well, it's a little woody cap that you can barely see when it's complete, when the actual nuts themselves are encased in these holes. Sometimes there's a third one. I've got one that's actually got 4 chambers, but had 4 nuts. So this is actually the outer casing of the nut. Maybe call it, what do you call it, a stone? Shell? Well, I mean, peanuts have shells. Well, other nuts, this is sort of hard and woody, so it's more like a stone, So would you call a peach pip a nut? Or you call it a pip or a stone? See, terminology, debatable how to call these things. That is a seed. See, now that is a seed. It's not really a nut. The seed is actually inside there. That's known as Diceracarium. Devil's thorn. I see some impala. I saw their tails flashing. A couple of impala rams. Not alarm tails, just casual flick of the tail to say everything's fine. Now that we're coming, he's not flicking his tail, so that means that he's looking at something, which is us. Morning, Mr. Impala. Getting very, very healthy. Strong, robust. probably bulking up with all the green that might come through in the next few days. Hello, boys. So how's the rut working out for you at the moment? Not all the rams can get a chance. Well, some of them eventually do, but not all of them at the same time can have a harem of females and carve out their little niche and be eligible for mating. But throughout the rut, they eventually do get their chance, because the ram that has the females has a job on his hands. No, his horns, really. He's got to keep his females in a very tight-knit group. As soon as one of them starts straying, he's likely to lose her to another ram. And it's moving off into thicker bush. And these two boys are still quite amicable. But he's also got to fight off other rams that are dying to get their share of the mating rights. And while now these rams are bulking up and they're getting really, really healthy, they're probably doing a little bit of sparring on the side to keep their tactics and their sparring ability up to scratch. And every now and then, when they try their luck with the adult ram that has established a harem, he ends up chasing them off, and he uses up a lot of energy. In fact, most of his time is spent chasing females back into the herd, chasing big males and fighting with them, or chasing young rams who want to come back to mommy because it's the first time they've had to leave the natal group and they want to go back to the herd. And they don't quite get it that they are now got to be part of the bachelor herd and fit in with that hierarchy. So an impala will lose condition fairly quickly during the rutting season, and it doesn't take long for one of these boys who's now been feeding and fighting or sparring, building up his muscle and getting great condition. It doesn't take long for them to be ousted by one of these rams, who then take over and then of course go through the same process. They spend 2 weeks of running around, losing condition, and eventually losing battles. And so you get a cross-section of the impala rams able to mate with one group of females. Bye, boys. Don't fight too much. Of course, that's like talking to the trees. They will do what they will do. That's the impala way. I had a nice sighting of an elephant bull yesterday. It was a lovely big bull in Must. Unfortunately, when I saw him, he was single-mindedly heading for the dam up on Buffelshoek. So I didn't get to see him for very long. It was a magnificent bull. And other than him, I haven't seen any sign of other ellies. So I'm hoping that we'll maybe try a different area just now. Just now meaning in a little while. Try a different area, see if we can find some ellie tracks. Tammy sent a tweet, #Safari Live. Tammy was asking about cashew nut trees. Do we get them in the area, and if not, where? Mostly coastal regions, Tammy, but cashews are not indigenous to Africa. They are found all the way up from Mozambique into East Africa. I'm not too sure of their distribution in West Africa, but I know a lot of our cashews all come from either Mozambique or East Africa. I spend a lot of time, hey baby kudu. But first, I'm going to creep up on this pond right next to the road before we get, because I don't know if we're going to get to see the kudus a little bit further. It had water in yesterday, and the water has dried up already, but I want to look at that hole that has tracks, and unfortunately it's got a lot of new sand coming out of it. The water level was almost at the mouth of that hole. I can see the debris from the water, and I can also see fresh tracks. There's a freshwater crab that lives here, and I was so hoping there was still some water and that we could see the crab. But it's not to be. Anyways, nice try. This is what I was telling you about earlier. I wanted to give, I was going to show you earlier on today when we started. I said I want to show you something special. Well, this is special, but it's not here. It's deep in its hole. Little crab sits there and waits for a rainfall to get a bit of water and I guess feed. The young kudu and its mother moved off. They were quite far in this silver cluster leaf forest. Silver cluster leaf starting to fade a little bit. A wildebeest. Morning, Mr. Wildebeest. Interesting that some people have sent in info about wildebeest at Gawi Dam, because I would have thought then that this would maybe be the wildebeest that I saw earlier. So clearly there are different wildebeest bulls or groups around. I don't know if he has a group with him. Try and move back a little. He's heard something or seen something. trotted across the road. He's listening intently, and I want to start the car right now. But I wonder if he heard other wildebeest. Because he suddenly got interested in something, and now he's just walking casually. You can see by his posture that he's stopping and listening, even if we can't see his head. He walks and he stops. I'm not hearing anything, but of course I'm not a wildebeest, so I can only guess that maybe he could hear something, maybe females, the rest of his herd. Bye-bye, Mr. Wildebeest. Good luck in your quest. Okay, I just heard him. Ooh. Yes, now he's calling them. I can't see him. But listen. So he must have maybe heard other wildebeest, and now he's answering. He's listening now. Did you manage to hear that?
Gnu.
That's how they get their name.
Gnu.
Because they say gnu. No? Interesting. I hope he finds who he's looking for. Not the same kudu cow calf that I saw earlier. Different one. But there's another kudu here. Two kudus. Morning, ladies. Out in the open, lovely. Quite stately when they walk. And whilst they have very good eyesight, it's quite clear that their world revolves around what they can hear and what noises they can't, or the surround sound of life that tells them everything is okay. There's a steenbok from the Kudut, the largest antelope that we're going to get here, to one of the smallest, the little steenbok, making its way through the guarri thicket. Also, big ears in relation to its body size, telling us that hearing is one of the most important facets of survival for these animals. And it's not just a case of hearing that that crunch of a twig if something's stalking them. It's hearing that alarm call of a squirrel or the alarm call of a go-away bird, or very much like the francolin that we heard earlier when we were on Impala Plains, that sound of francolin being frightened and startled, flying up out of the grasses, is something that will make them very alert. But clearly those very long, thin legs with very, very narrow hooves allows them to walk in relative silence. Now, I was going to mention it when I went to collect the snakeskin earlier. I came back and I can't tell you how amazing it feels to walk on the wet earth and the wet ground, the wet grasses. It's like Mother Nature just giving you a cushion of softness. So for them, they can hear a lot, despite the fact that they're walking through the bush. They don't really displace a lot of matter when they put their feet down. They're walking at a normal pace. When they lift the front foot, the back foot goes pretty much into the hoof print of the front foot, so they lessen the chances of stepping on things, and it allows them 360-degree audio, and with those ears amplifying the sound, gives them a good idea of how safe it is to venture further in their quest for food. Bye-bye, Kuru. Morning, Carol. Carol's in Santa Monica, California, wanting to know if animals ever get disturbed by human voices. Oh, yes, they do. I have seen many times sitting with animals. In fact, yesterday was a perfect example. But I've seen how sitting with animals, sitting quietly, that Impala running, that's sort of rutting running. I was hoping we would hear the noise that goes along with it. Sorry, as I was saying, sitting with animals, sitting nice and quietly with animals and other vehicles with loud people on them. People, a lot of times, people from the city don't quite understand how loud they are, because in the city there's so much ambient noise that you normally have a higher tone of, or rather a higher volume level than you do out here, especially on a day like today. It's relatively quiet, there's no wind, sound travels tremendously far and easily, especially being damp. Now, I've been with animals where the vehicles have been approaching, and from even a quarter of a mile away you can hear the laughter and the high volume of voices, and I've seen animals just get up and move off. Or elephants actually physically running away from the sound of voices. Of course, it depends on the individual animal. Some animals are completely completely ignore the sound of voices. We've been sitting sometimes with leopard or with a sighting, and guides sometimes talk across the vehicles to each other, or you might get a guide that is explaining something to his guests and he has a little bit of a loud voice, or sometimes guests even that are quite loud, and quite often the leopard carries on sleeping, doesn't even lift his head. So sometimes, yes, sometimes animals are disturbed by our voice. I've inadvertently scared animals with my voice. One of the most famous of all for me, that I regret, was up in the Timbavati. I was doing a game drive. I was managing a lovely little camp up there, which has now since been rebuilt and sold and then rebuilt and called something else. But I was in this beautiful grassland area, and there were guinea fowl all around me making alarm calls and going crazy, and I was expecting a cat, I was expecting a leopard, to be honest. And I looked down in the grass right next to me, because I hadn't seen it. The little opening in the grass suddenly came next to me, and crouched down just ready to make a pounce was this caracal, which is also known as a lynx. And I said, oh, there's a caracal, but I just said it a little bit too loud, and the caracal bolted, and the guinea fowl flew in every which direction, and of course I messed up the caracal's hunt, and I feel bad to this day that I disturbed this poor caracal. I also don't see them very often. And I think I've done that a few times, that I get so excited about seeing something, that, oh, there's a something, and I just say it a little bit too loud, and it moves off. We are on Philemon's cut line. Jam on Twitter, tweet, wanting to know about wildebeest. It's only the second time. You're saying only the second time you've seen wildebeest alone. And is this usual or unusual? For wildebeest, it's pretty much usual. Bulls, wildebeest bulls have a different kind of a rutting, a different kind of mating process to, say, impala. The impala rams herd females and keep them in, and pretty much keep them in his territory, in his lick, in his, where he has established his breeding ground. And wildebeest, on the other hand, they establish the territory and they wait for females to come to them. They do fight for territory, but invariably the strongest and best wildebeest bull will find an area that has got the best grazing and got the best access to water, and of course that will attract some of the best females. So it's one of nature's ways of making sure that good genes match up with good genes, I suppose, in some ways. But he doesn't physically keep them together the way an impala ram does. An impala ram runs around as soon as a female moves even a few yards away from the herd. He runs off and chases her back into the herd. Wildebeest don't really have to do that. It's a little bit more voluntary on the part of the wildebeest females in terms of their presence. Thanks for the question, Jan. They'll use other nests. Wahlberg's nest, that. I wonder if it's paying rent. Or I wonder if the Wahlbergs come back and say, who's been in our nest? Now, this is an alarm call. It is upset about something. So first we're going to have a look at Twin Dams. I think it's looking towards the drainage line. I think there might be something in the Milwaukee River. Sorry, Brian. Get a better view from here. It does seem to be looking up the Milwaukee and complaining. Yes, Kukama's there. Sitting on the microphone with my tracker this morning. He's the one that found the drag marks. But he can't tell me anything more about it. There's a slender mongoose and we can't really see much of it. Good luck with that, Brian. What are you eating? So it's got something. Definitely eating something. But unfortunately, maybe if I move forward. Can you see it? Oh, he's off. Just the black tip of its tail as it sneaks off. I'm wondering if maybe it didn't raid. That's what the sticklers were shouting at. So we can get back to these drag marks now. That's a little mongoose, mostly solitary. A lot longer than the dwarf mongoose. There it is. It's going to come out onto the road, maybe.
Yeah, I'd like to.
It's just amongst that quarry, the base of that quarry now. Yeah, here it comes. About to, we'll probably just dash across the road. Maybe it'll stop. Come on, child. Hello, beautiful. Oh, such an incredible, such a rare sight to actually get to see it so nicely like that.
Awesome.
Beautiful tail. Gorgeous little creature. The slender mongoose. Climbs trees and raids birds' nests. I've seen them catching birds. Ferocious little things. Not weasel family, these are mongoose family. The weasels and things belong to the mustelids. The mongoose all belong to the viverids. Closely related, but kind of like dogs and cats are related. You can see how part of it makes a bit of a zigzag pattern because of obviously it's whatever it is that's carrying it is moving from side to side as it walks, either carrying it between its legs, and it looks like this is the spot that it gets dragged off of the road. And wrong, completely wrong. Looks like it went the other way. Hard to tell because the hyena tracks here might just be on top of the drag mark rather than being the dragger. No, it's still on the road. Definitely hyena, it's not leopard drag marks. Definitely went the other way. Probably gone into the drainage line off of track that we were on. Well, interesting, but no solution. There are also hyena tracks going this way. A bit confusing. If it's hyena, it's a different matter entirely, because if it's hyena, there's not likely to be anything at all, because hyena don't store their carcasses as much as leopards do.
Lessons taking these back to death.
Could be. It is sort of direction. Hello, Franklins. Okay, come you catch up to your family. Wait for the chicken to cross the road. Don't let me rush you. Really, I've got all Sunday. Thank you. There was a squirrel here too. Right, we are almost at Gowrie Dam. I wonder if maybe that wasn't a hyena. That'd be interesting to see. We're going to go back to the leopard. I'm not seeing any drag marks here. I guess. Let's see if there's anything left there. So I guess the only thing we can do is keep an eye out on the camera cam, or rather the camera online. Do my waterhole cam. from this angle, maybe better from the other side, it's clearer, but the two front legs hanging down with, I guess, bits of shoulder blade. There is a little bit of the rump still left higher up the thigh and on the top of the back leg. So there is still a bit of feeding to be done. The pieces that are falling, I'm guessing, are bits of vertebra. And I can't hear any alarm calls that can tell me anything about what direction he took. There are a lot of vehicle tracks here that he possibly would have walked out on, so I'm not going to be able to see anything on the ground that will tell me which direction he went in. Quite interesting that hyena, although there were hyena here, they didn't hang around that long. Maybe it's because they made their own kill, and that's what we saw, the drag marks that we saw now. It's possible if he moves off and he then makes another kill somewhere that he will ignore this and he won't even come back for it. Not through the bushes around here to see if he maybe moved away, but our only chance, I guess, is to see if there are some tracks on the roads later on. And of course, to follow up on those drag marks at the hyena, where those hyena tracks were, see what that hyena was dragging, or at least where. Might even find something later on Weaver's Nest that will tell us that it dragged it all the way up that little track that comes out of Philemon's Dip, and then it eventually gets to... Oh, yes, I'm sorry to disturb. Tell the whole world. Those are hardy-dar ibises. Shattering the silence on this beautiful Sunday morning. So, something to look forward to later today, this afternoon. Following up on things like that. Judy in San Francisco is asking a question that I don't think I can answer. What can I tell you about the immune system of leopards if they don't pick up diseases from the prey that they eat? I can tell you that there are a number of things that they can pick up. Anthrax, of course, is one of them that the immune system can't deal with. Then there is the question of interspecific contamination, whether a disease or a pathogen or something that affects a herbivore, whether the same thing can affect a carnivore. Now, I know that lion can pick up TB from buffalo, and it does affect them, and their immune system obviously can't deal with it. I can't tell you much about a leopard's immune system at all, since I really don't know. I haven't done any study in that area at all. Morning, Hornbill. Can I say hello to everybody in the world? Looking at something on the road, or in the bush. On the road. I guess something to look into. Thanks, Judy. But it's certainly not close enough to get there in the next few minutes. And I'll have to find out from the guys which way it went. Being cheated cut line and right on our boundary, hopefully it'll come this way. If I'm thinking who I think it is no, that doesn't make sense, does it? If it is who I'm thinking it is, that makes more sense. Rest in peace, little beetle. Toki. Mvula, most likely. And since he hasn't been around here for a while and it's been raining, maybe he's coming back to just check on his territory after the rain, and we'd be lucky enough to find him later. This is ideal cat weather. Cats can move around in this a lot, so could be that you'll be walking around for quite a while. Could be why quarantine isn't there. Maybe he's also gone a walkabout, leaving the area where his kill is, because by now it's giving off a fairly strong smell, no doubt, and it's likely to attract that attention. So maybe it's time for him to move off and go find an area that doesn't have his scent all over it. Especially if the old man's coming around Mvula. Don't think Mvula would do anything yet. I think it's still early days for these boys. I think they still will be allowed to stick around. Sending in all the questions this morning. It's been absolutely wonderful. My name is Mark. Brian has been on camera with me this morning with the trusty thumb, and Tara has been sending those questions through from Final Control. And from all of us here at Wild Earth, I hope you have a pleasant night if you're going to bed, but we'll see you 3 o'clock Central African time this afternoon. Love you lots.